Let's talk to Ryan Saby, Deputy Political Editor of The Sun. Ryan, very good morning to you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Mike.
Good to see you. Keir Starmer's done it again, hasn't he? I mean, he's written a piece of The Sun today in which he says all the right things and says that, you know, he's determined to clamp down on all this terrible sexual abuse of children and horrible raping and grooming of kids in these towns and cities around Britain. But when he was talking yesterday, he said this.
And when politicians, and I mean politicians, who sat in government for many years, are casual about honesty, decency, truth and the rule of law, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right, then that affects politics, because a robust debate can only be based on the true facts.
Well, the true facts are yet to be established in many cases, Ryan, so why do you think he's so reluctant to actually order an inquiry?
I think there's a couple of things. I think, first of all, he's got this piece of legislation that Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, went to the Commons last night, and she said that if you are working with children, you're a teacher, you're a social worker, and you know about child sex offences, you will need to report them, and that will be, you'll face professional sanctions, you'll face criminal sanctions. So they feel like they're addressing that, but also I think they feel that what government needs to do now is actually implement the report from the Alexis J report and the recommendations from 2022. Now I think they feel like perhaps another local-led inquiry just won't be the right thing to do. However, you've got lots of people across the political spectrum who are saying it's now time to join the dots. There may well have been local investigations, but actually it needs a more sort of holistic, big picture view with this. So actually we may be able to learn from it. But at the moment, Number 10 and the government, the Home Secretary, are saying that we don't need this big national inquiry.
But except they do, because the old inquiry that he says they're going to action, with the J inquiry, as you mentioned, is not in any way a complete picture of what's been happening. Not only is it out of date because it was published in 2022, it didn't really look at the national prevalence of abuse gangs. It looked at 6 case study areas where there were no significant reports of grooming at all. It used the term Pakistani once. It relied on officials rather than testimony of survivors. It mentions Rotherham only once. It doesn't mention Telford at all, and it only mentions Rochdale in relation to Cyril Smith. So it's a very incomplete picture of what the actual grooming gangs scenario really is. And they've also taken a statement from Maggie Oliver and chopped it by 2/3, so that an awful lot of what she said, and she's coming on this show later on today, very, very annoyed with what Keir Starmer said yesterday, you know, they haven't really addressed the grooming scandal. You know, the J report was more about kind of child abuse in general.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the problem for the government this week. Now, you obviously had the comments from Sir Keir Starmer yesterday. You're going to have more pressure from the likes from across cross parties from this week. Elon Musk as well is bound to weigh in again on this, and you just wonder by the end of the week whether the political pressure will just be too much, that Sir Keir Starmer just says that perhaps we do need to do this national inquiry, or perhaps row back from the position they're currently in. But one interesting thing that will happen in the House of Commons tomorrow is that the Conservatives have put down an amendment to say there should be a national inquiry. Now, what this will then mean is Labour MPs will have the choice to walk through the division lobbies with the Conservative MPs. Now, if they don't, it will look like they don't want a national inquiry. Now, it may well be that they have their own reasons for not voting with the Conservatives. But from a political point of view, it's a interesting tactic from Kemi Badenoch to put those Labour MPs under pressure.
Yes, I think so. And of course, he was referring yesterday to people like Kemi Badenoch when he said politicians who are jumping on a far-right bandwagon. I mean, she hasn't responded to that, but would you expect her to?
Yeah, I think so. And I think perhaps her response last night when she said that she was going to put down a measure to have this national inquiry was just her way of actually sort of intervening in this and actually putting Keir Starmer under pressure. But I would expect she's got 6 questions at Prime Minister's Questions tomorrow, and you expect this, the topic that is that everyone is talking about, that she will bring that up. Absolutely no doubt about it.
And I mean, like an awful lot of the things that have beset this new government and Keir Starmer, they haven't really been willing to move on any of the positions. You know, the winter fuel allowance that they were urged to put off for a year. The same with the VAT imposition on private schools. They were told to delay it for a little bit longer. The same goes for the price cap on electricity. They were asked to put one on. They didn't do it. They said they would. You know, they're not very good at sort of taking stock and thinking that they may have made the wrong decision. So would you expect the same to be the case here, where they've said they're not going to do an inquiry, so they just won't?
There may be some tinkering around the edges, but whether it's a full-blown national inquiry, let's wait and see. Now, I think one of the reasons why you're seeing all these big decisions and the government not moving on that is because they're at the start of that 5-year term in government, and I think they feel like they need to do the hard yards and do make all the tough decisions now. So whether it comes to winter fuel tax or national insurance, that they are the real difficult measures. And if you're going to do anything like that, it has to be in that first year or so, because the longer you leave it, the closer you get to the next election. That you have to try and get through the dirty work and the hard yards of government.
Yeah, but they keep saying that, Ryan, and in fact it doesn't really wash any longer with the people, because what we're seeing is not any kind of benefit at all. I mean, we've got a story this morning about the economy, with service companies basically saying, look, we can't hire anyone, probably going to be letting people go, prices are going up, we're going to be spending billions more on national insurance. We've got, the Bank of England saying that the outlook's poor. We've got nobody anywhere saying that what Rachel Reeves has done in the budget is a good thing. So even the so-called benefit, and Wes Streeting was saying this on the weekend when he was doing the round, saying, people will look back on what we've done about winter fuel and what we've done about, going after farmers and all of that, and they'll realise it was the right thing to do. I don't think he's right about that.
I think one thing that the government has been beholden to is confidence, and I think leading up to that budget there was low confidence because the government were sort of almost talking the country down slightly. Many people would accuse them of that, and then you have the budget measures, whether that's national insurance or the farmers' tax, and that hits confidence again. So I think it has been very, very difficult for them, and growth particularly is going to be particularly poor over the next 4 or 5 years, and you do wonder where the light comes from here. Yeah,
you really do. Meanwhile, in one of the more bizarre developments of the day yesterday, in what was already a pretty bizarre day given what Keir Starmer said, Labour put out a really weird AI TikTok video featuring animals dressed in different sectors of the public service, such as the NHS and the police. But the song that they used was actually a song that had the most vile, ghastly lyrics. I don't know if you've had a chance to see them or look at them or hear them. It's a Brazilian rapper, apparently, talking about punching young girls, talking about, people's private parts. I mean, it was all about sort of abuse of women. I mean, given what's going on and the grooming gang scandal, it seems like a massive blunder, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like I don't know how that got through the sort of vetting procedure at Labour HQ there, but when I saw those lyrics yesterday, it's sort of taken aback, really. Certainly not one for, as we obviously write in the newspaper, those words not going in there, and certainly not ones to read out here. But it does make you wonder what the thought process is and what the checking process is for something like that to actually see the light of day. Yeah.
Absolutely right. And let's talk about some of the other stuff around Downing Street at the moment. I mean, he's been away, obviously, for his holiday in Madeira. People were booing him there. He was jumping the queue for the toboggan, all the rest of it. He's back in situ now. It turns out that he's now redecorated a bit of Downing Street, we learned this morning, and that was that famously rather sort of badly thought through press room that was dreamed up by Boris Johnson when he was still in charge, and Allegra Stratton, who was famously kind of caught out making jokes about lockdown and all of that. Apparently he didn't like the fact that the back walls were painted blue, so he's now painted them red.
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually going to be. I think I should be heading in there today, so I'll be able to report back and show exactly what it's like. This is the room where Downing Street hold their twice daily briefings for journalists, and it was blue, and now I think there's a shade of grey as well in there. I think as well. So yeah, I'll let you know and just see if it's value for money. But £80,000 does seem like a lot of money. Now it is actually. I believe an old courtroom that you go in. So some of the wood paneling has to remain. So that may be why the costs have crept up. But I'll let you know.
No, very good. And finally, Tulip Sadiq has reported herself to the authorities, the parliamentary standards people, on the grounds that she thinks she might not have done anything wrong, but she just wants to be sure.
Yeah, no, exactly. This story has been brewing over the last few weeks, and it all goes back to the Treasury Minister Tulip Sadiq and her link to properties, with links to her aunt, who was ousted as the Bangladesh Prime Minister, sort of in the middle of last year. Now she has reported herself to Laurie Magnus, who we call the sort of sleaze watchdog, the ethics czar within government, and we'll just see what he comes up with. At the moment, it's a fact-finding mission, and if they feel fit to take the sort of the probe or the inquiry further, that they will do so. But I think the interesting thing on Tulip Sadiq is she's the anti-corruption minister. She was due to go to China later this week with the Chancellor. On a trade delegation. Now she won't go on that. She wants to be here to help the Sir Laurie Magnus, who is that ethics advisor, and try and get this inquiry or get the early stages of that inquiry out the way, and so they can make a decision one way or the other to move to the next part.
But it's just more sleaze, isn't it? I mean, you can't get away from it with this government.
Yeah, it's one of those things where does it look good or not? And I think one of the key things about the ministerial code is may not be it's the perception of how these things look, and let's just see where Laurie Magnus comes with this. But the fact that she referred herself to him shows that she wants this cleared up one way or the other as soon as possible.
Yeah, I would predict that she's out of a job by Easter, but we shall see. Good to talk to you, Ryan Saby. Thank you very much indeed, Deputy Political Editor at The Sun.